The real question here, and I do think that what you already brought up, how does this impact the attractiveness of both the supporting director and the head coaching job and the GM job for that matter? There's 3 open jobs at U.S. Soccer for the men's national team. How does this impact the attractiveness of those jobs, the program? That is a big question. But before that, it's the Gio question. Now, I don't really think there was a lot of complicated elements to this. It was, you have to call in Gio now because you need to put this behind you. Gio's too talented to leave out of the program. He didn't do these things. He may have thrown a tantrum at the World Cup, but as Tim Ream and others have said, and Anthony Hudson has said, that was dealt with in Qatar. Like, they went through the internal team, the internal team process to kind of get past what Gio did. I don't think it's good, and I do have to worry about Gio going forward a little bit, but he has every right to be back in this team if he has gone through the apology process and if he's talented enough to be in the group, which we know he is.
This is the interesting thing. I don't understand why people are somewhat conflicted on this, because one good thing about being a fan of the U.S. national team, and one of the reasons there's so much outrage at times over the selection process, is that we all clamor for this to be a merit-based system.
We do.
If you're good enough, you're good enough. If you're good enough, you do it. So in a merit-based system, if he failed and if he messed up at the World Cup and a penance was paid at the satisfaction of the team and the coach at the time, how does he not merit any further call-up? Because he did what he was supposed to do at that time.
We're never going to get like polling data from 25 other players and a coaching staff about how many of them are cool with Gio after what happened. But, again, this was the process in place. And this is what ultimately the guy in charge, whether you liked it or not, Greg Berhalter, decided that's how he decided to handle it. And he said, okay, we're done here. Once you get to that point, you can't reopen that can of worms. You can't go back and relitigate and say, well, Gio actually didn't do enough, or he didn't apologize the right way, or his parents are assholes, so now we have to treat him differently because of that fact.
Give the kid a chance to turn the cheek. I mean, give him if anything, the only evidence we have is what Gio's given us in the last 3 months, 4 months since this happened. First 3 games he got back on the field, he was stellar.
But what else did he do? Let's remember what else he did when he scored those goals.
Well, I mean, he celebrated a bit.
He celebrated in a very specific kind of way that was
clearly
in reference.
For all we know, he's talking about his parents. Shut up, and I'm not listening to you. How do we know he's not talking about his parents? Leave that aside.
That's possible. I'm not saying it's a disqualifying thing. I'm not saying that I even care that he did the celebrations he did. I think he's a 19, now 20-year-old kid who acts like a 19 or 20-year-old kid. And that sort of leeway goes so far. You're still in a professional environment. You still have to conduct yourself a certain way. You're still responsible to your teammates, accountable to them, and you can't just treat them like shit.
And as a responsible professional, the guy's been riding the pine for weeks now, for multiple games. He's finally getting back in now that William Brand is injured, but didn't start on the weekend. But during that time, we didn't hear him speaking out. We didn't see him showing frustration that he wasn't getting game time despite scoring goals. If anything, he had more of a claim to getting some minutes with Dortmund than he did with the U.S. national team.
When you say that, how would we see it? Like
he could be posting Instagram stuff.
That's true.
When he scores or when he gets on the field, he could be pointing at the. Remember Clint Mathis back in the day, tapping his watch, telling the coach, "Hey, give me playing time." There's ways that guys can do this.
That's a good point. You're right that he could be more of a prima donna publicly. I forgot about social media being
everything that Gio needs to be doing to revamp his career. He's doing right now. The moments he's getting on the field, he's playing well, and when he's not playing, he's doing nothing to put the spotlight on him in a negative way. Only things he can do right now: shut up and play. Right? He's shutting up and playing.
He has shut it.
Now he has another thing he has to do. He has to come into this team.
Shut it
and
up.
Face the music with them.
Shut up. Shut it up.
Isn't that like? Wouldn't you be crapping your pants if you shut up?
I'm asking you how to conjugate this. Did he shut up? That's past tense and present. You need to shut up, and you just shut up.
Would you say you shut the door?
I don't think that's correct. I don't think that's right. Okay, he didn't shut. He's not shutting up.
But what I'm saying is that he has another hurdle to go over. He has one of the last hurdles in my mind to go over, and that's making it right with the team. Because last time he left them, he made his part right with the team. Yeah. But this organization has gone through something that these players didn't ask for.
I would be very curious to know, and we're not going to hear anything. And the guy who is the most vocal leader on this team is not in the group for the Nations League, and Tyler Adams. Be very curious to know how they're processing Gio's parents' behavior in that team. And it's not like, by the way, it's not like the players weren't aware of the Reynas being shitty, because at the World Cup, which is in the report, apparently after Gio did not play against Wales, the Reynas were very publicly like, we're not getting on that bus with the Berhalter family. Ew. And this was Danielle Reyna's big stand. I'm not getting on that bus.
It smells like Nike shoes.
It's all cool kicks and back passes over there. I don't want to be on that bus. So everybody would have heard this, right? The small community, grapevine stuff. Everybody knew. All the friends and family are talking about it. It's going to get back to the players. So they're all very aware that Gio's parents were throwing a tantrum during the World Cup. And I don't know what I guess I'm trying to imagine myself in this situation. Obviously, I was never going to be a World Cup player or a professional athlete of any kind. But have you ever been in a team where one of your teammates' parents were just acting like idiots, and then it's not the kid's fault, it's not your teammate's fault, but it kind of sticks
I'm more
to
in a
them.
situation where I've coached a team and a parent is like that.
Well, so that's just coaching soccer in America, right?
I have an interesting proposition for you, though, a hypothetical for you.
Oh, this isn't a pick your poison?
No, it's not pick your poison. I know. If you want, I have one in the chat we can do if you want. So my question to you is, 23 dudes get together. I think it's 24. 24 on this roster, 24 instead of a 26-man roster coming in for this.
This particular roster
These
is 24
dudes get together. Of the 23 that aren't Gio, who's the first one in that dining room that cracks the parent joke? Who's the first one that breaks that ice?
I mean, it's Weston, because everybody he can get away with it, where Gio can't say shit back to Weston McKennie. There's no way he's clapping back on Weston McKennie. Not a chance. He's too lovable. Weston's too lovable. That's why he can do it, right? He can make that joke, right? And by the way, they all have parents who have done not exactly the same thing, who have done questionable things. Whether we saw that, whether it was public, whether it was when they were kids or in the youth teams, every one of these, I've been tweeted at. I've been tweeted at. Weston McKennie's dad is active on Twitter. Did you know that? He's out there. He's out there, and he says shit about his son when people talk negatively about Weston. He's out there. I don't know.
I mean, he must not have Ernie Stewart's number, but okay.
Well, that's the thing. Does he have Ernie? Is he more concerned about the internal part of it, where obviously Claudia Reyna has pull that maybe I think it's John McKennie doesn't have? But social media, I can get out there, it's funny that there's not a lot of attempting to do sock puppet stuff or burner counts. It's kind of like, no, this is me.
It just opens up. It opens up a whole new vein of mama jokes.
Well, it can only go so far, right? Because I know, they're not gonna intentionally try to tear down Gio Reyna, right? I don't think.
I mean, you can't let that slide if that's your boy. You got to make a joke somewhere in there, or maybe I just come from an age where you just did that.
This leaves the Reynas personas non grata. It leaves Gio Reyna a part of the program, but needing to do some work. It also makes things very uncomfortable, I think, for Gio next week when he lands in Orlando, and there will be reporters and U.S. Soccer. I've already said this on the radio, that they have to make him available. You cannot hide Gio away, right? You can't
Yeah, I think if I'm U.S. Soccer, I'm putting him on the first panel that there is. Rip the Band-Aid off. Let him face it like a man. Granted, he didn't necessarily do anything wrong, but that's the guy that everyone wants to talk about. But it was interesting to me, and I don't know the answer to this, and I don't mean to bring up old stuff or make things awkward, but did John Harkes and Eric Winalda ever feature in a roster together again after the World Cup?
I don't remember that.
In '98?
I don't know that. I mean, obviously, we
didn't
find out about
is this the most
everything.
awkward moment in U.S. soccer history when he walks into that locker room? I can't think of one more awkward than that one potentially, and I don't know if that one ever happened.
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, there might have been an awkward moment when Weston and Christian Pulisic were in the same locker room after the rumors started swirling following the Nashville incident.
But if it didn't really happen, it's not awkward.
No,
it's
true.
just more like,
That's still weird for Christian, though. Still
not for Weston,
weird.
though. That's not weird. If it didn't happen, it's like, I don't know if y'all heard the rumors over there.
I know. Look, I still think you got to get this done. You got to put it behind you as soon as possible. And look, I don't think there's this isn't a gotcha situation. Nobody who U.S. Soccer is going to give access to for Gio's availability is going to be like, hey, your parents are assholes. What do you think of that, dude? Like, they're going to ask him his feelings. They're going to ask him, what his relationship is with his parents, and he doesn't have to answer that. All he has to say is, look, I love my parents, and I'm going to try to play hard for this team. That's all he has to do. He doesn't have to say anything else. That's his prerogative.
I love my parents. They've sacrificed a lot to get me here. I don't support the way in which they handle themselves. All I can tell you is that going forward, it's going to be about me and my game. That's the soundbite. You say that, you're gold.
The other move, somebody's asking, this is very good from Steve. If you're Gio, what's the J. Rodius way of getting ahead of this? Can I give you my thought, and then you tell me? I know it's your. Oh, you can go first.
I don't have an answer right now. I got to think about it for a second.
Oh, I'm thinking that you go and you find somebody famous and you start posting Instagram pictures that you're dating, that you're making moves. That's the way.
That's a nice way. I'll tell you the other way that a celebrity culture would deal with this. Check into rehab. Check into rehab, baby. Like, take 8 weeks. Take 8 weeks. You're on the bench anyway. Take 8 weeks. Come out the other side of Saint.
Man, what if he got to that conference? Well, no, this would be terrible. Look, I'm not trying to break up. I'm not suggesting Gio should break up with his parents. I would never suggest that, but it would be amazing if he got to that press conference.
Oh, Slay Moon Fry style? Like,
I'd like you to no longer refer to me as Giovanni Reyna. Now I am just Giovanni.
What if he just took a one-word name like Madonna, or like when Prince became a symbol? Like this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like Gio.
Just be Gio. Just Gio.
There are Giovannis
just
out there.
Gio, like a cologne. Just Gio.
But it's not like the Brazilians don't have 17 Freds and 12 Ramiros and like whatever. Like just be Gio or be Giovanni, and just put that on the back of everything. No more Reyna, just Giovanni. Just do that.